Hey everyone, and welcome back to Across the Neurodivide. This is the podcast with myself and the wonderful Tigger Pritchard. Hi, Tigger.
Hi, how you doing?
Awesome. This
Good.
is where Tigger, from both ends of the spectrum, if you like, me as a neurotypical, Tigger as a neurodivergent and amazing autistic human being. We talk about the stuff that matters, and hopefully we come to an understanding between the two of us that really does support both ends. So as I say, welcome back to Across the Neurodivide. Before I go any further, can you do us a favour? Can you please go hit like, hit subscribe, and ring the bell? And that way you'll always know when new episodes are coming up. You'll also know when there's any new information that goes onto the channel. More importantly, it really helps the algorithms and it makes this get out there and helps other people who may need to see this kind of stuff actually get to see it. So please do that. It's a huge favour. Tigger, my man. You have had quite some time, so we're going to. I think this episode is going to be devoted to your experiences over the last month or two. Those who are familiar, we normally do this once every 3 or 4 weeks, but we've had a bit of a delay because of what Tigger's been going through. So I'm going to hand over to Tigger. What has been going on in your life, my man?
Thanks. Hey, we've been chatting a bit, obviously, online in our other world.
Yeah.
Good to see you, so to speak, face to face again. I am definitely coming your way. We are definitely having whiskies and coffee. We've got to get that sorted. And it's so good to see you again. And thank you for those of you that watch it and like and subscribe and everything, because it means a lot. Questions and so on, so much. But, there's been a pause, and I really should, and we'll put this out in the written bit as well, a bit of a trigger warning. And the trigger warnings are about health, and the trigger warnings are about lesions. And the trigger warnings are about the word cancer, really. It's not as bad as it sounds. I've got to say that straight away. It is not as bad as it sounds. All's being explored. But that's the trigger warning out of the way. So, yeah, I had a kidney stone. Those
Can I say, before you, I've had kidney stones myself. My wife now believes it's as painful as childbirth. She agrees. Having seen what I went through with the kidney stone, I can't imagine. It's terrific.
It is, isn't it? I was at hospital. There's a hospital down here which is amazing, called Derriford, which is absolutely superb. And when I was there, one of the nurses treating me when I was going for all the scans and the heart monitors and everything, she said, "I've had kidney stones. I've had 4 kids. I'd rather have the 4 kids." I was like, thanks. That means so much. So yeah.
I think it takes on extra pain as a man. It's one of the few situations where I think men probably have the worst side of it. That's not taking anything away. What women go through, I wouldn't want them. But when you've got a kidney stone, for those who don't know, it has to get out. And the way it gets out is by traveling very slowly and very painfully down the shaft of your penis. And it kills.
It does. It really does. I have to say, medication is superb, but I mean, the hospital was fantastic. So first of all, the first thing they found was the kidney stones. I actually went there in agony to the casualty department. I went, "Hi, it hurts. I think it's a kidney stone." They were incredible. Literally within 3 days, they gave me lots of pain medication, which is like, wow. But literally in 3 days, I was by this kind of like sonic machine, which they've only had for a year. It's like going to Star Trek universe. It is so cool. They zap it with sound. It does hurt, but they zap it with sound, and they literally turned this kidney stone into powder. And that was it. I had maybe 3 or 4 days of absolute pain. And then I went for the zap machine, and boom. I mean, it hurt. It ached for a while afterwards. But literally, a couple of those, and it was just powder, and it gone. State-of-the-art machine, absolutely incredible. They X-ray you, then they target this like sonic beam at you, and it dissolves it. It obviously gives you muscle soreness as it's an impacting sound, but wow, I was in geek heaven. It was like going to Star Trek, like asking all these questions. I loved it. But I know I shouldn't have done. But I'm a geek, so going anywhere with there's lots of equipment and flashy lights and nice stainless steel stuff, I'm in heaven.
If you can find a silver lining in a mushroom cloud,
there was this bit where I went there with my partner, and I think there was some shiny metal drawers, and I went to them, and she went, "No." I went, "What?" She went, "No." And I went, "But they look really cool. I just want to see what's inside." And she went, "No." And I'm thinking, it was like taking a little kid to a sweet shop. I was in absolute heaven. Yeah, I was in agony as well. But I was like, "Oh, can I open that drawer? Oh, can I look at that? What does this do?" But I know that's my ADHD, right? Getting back to it, they found something else. And this is why we haven't been together for a while, and lots of my other stuff paused as well, because you just do. So kidney stone, professionalism, they scanned every part of my body, incredibly professional, incredibly awesome. And then, as so many awesome human beings do, I had this amazing doctor who was definitely a geek as well, say to me, as often happens, Tigger, when you come in for one thing, we find something else, and we've found a lesion. I remember sitting there, and my brain processing and going, a lesion. And first of all, I thought to myself, what, like a foreign lesion? And then I went off to Hardy, my brain and stuff like that. Yeah. So I was sitting there going, oh, I like that one with Laura Hardy. It's really cool. My dad used to watch it. I remember seeing it on like an old real Super 8 type thing. And then I came back to what he was telling me. And he went, don't worry. And I'm thinking, why are you telling me not to worry? And then all of a sudden, in reality, you sit there and you go, oh, they found a lesion. And it's on the other kidney. And to be honest, I'd actually been to my doctor several months before and gone, there's something wrong with the right-hand side of my body. I thought it was kidney stones then because it was aching. And then when the kidney stone appeared on the other side of the body, that really freaked me out, frightened me a bit. So then I realized what's been going on this side of my body is Cuthbert. I've named this lesion Cuthbert.
Why Cuthbert? Is there a story behind the name?
It just came into my head. I don't know if it's from Cuthbert Dribble, whatever it is, that song from my childhood days. Barney McGrew. I don't know. I just called it Cuthbert. I was going to call it foreign lesion, and that didn't work for me. I kept coming back to Cuthbert in my head, and I wanted to name it as something so we can have conversations. So it's Cuthbert, yeah. So I don't know. It just popped into my head. So there I am in the hospital, and at that point it was we need to do one more, CT scan on you, and I had tons, and I was right, okay, and then it's like somebody flicks a switch, and I have to process. I have to go off on tangents. My immediate reaction was to research, was to know. I have to know everything. This is where I differ from those people around me. I had to know everything about what was going on. So I was saying to the hospital, A&E department, can you tell me more? And they couldn't. They were fantastic. They were busy. Scanned me, sent me back. And I had that terrible moment in the car where, and obviously trigger warnings here for reactions and other cancer issues and so on. I had to tell my partner in the car, it's a kidney stone. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I thought it was. And then I went and I got to tell her. And I thought, well, look, while they found and sorted and are sorting the kidney stone, they've also found something else. And those are conversations nobody wants to have because you don't know. You don't know, do you? You just don't know. And I think that moment in time was the worst because I didn't know the size of Cuthbert. I didn't know what was going on. I just know they'd found something, but they had to sort out the kidney stone first, which is why literally I was in 2 days later being zapped. That was really difficult. And obviously we both found that very difficult. I'm going off in my head, desperately wanted to read. So in the car, I'm looking up lesion, what it means, kidney lesion, researching it. My partner's processing it and was obviously really upset because, you would be. So that was the first bit. The first bit was getting that message and then processing it. And then everything just grinds to a halt because you don't know anything else. And as a person that loves getting information, I don't like not knowing more information. I call them my flowcharts. I need my flowcharts. I don't like not knowing my flowcharts, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah. I have to have a progression route. Once I know what it is, I'm fine. But if I don't have the progression route, then that's when my anxiety goes up and I get stressed and I tend to have little burnouts and so on. So that's why we haven't done one of these for a while, is because then literally what happened once they sorted out the kidney stone, they had to come and look at Cuthbert, and wow, geek viewpoint, it's heaven. I have to say I loved every minute of it. I had some great conversations with people. One of the nurses came up and went, my name's Tigger too, and they showed me on their WhatsApp, and I said, I've changed mine legally. Little things like this made it really, that side of it, a positive interaction experience. And I told people about what I do and they were really interested, and some people joined one of my Facebook pages and so on. It was great. But I'm progressing down that route of what is Cuthbert, and it literally was for a long time, literally once a week. It felt like I was going to one hospital or another in the county that I live in, and going up to the hospital in Derriford, getting scans, getting contrast scans, getting x-rayed, all of them to find out. And what happened was I was getting little bits of information from people. And further on down the line, I got, this is the size of Cuthbert. And I just got one size. And then later on, I got, other sizes. And at one point, I actually made a 3D model of Cuthbert, which I think I'll use the term went down like a lead balloon. My partner, I went, hey, look what I've done. And it was like, you know, from my viewpoint, the only way I could reduce my anxiety levels was to research, was to know, was to find out every possible outcome. And then
it makes sense to me because, I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of music, obviously. The Foo Fighters, and they've written so the song "Learn to Fly" by the Foo Fighters, one of their most popular songs, is actually about Dave Grohl has a chronic fear of flying, and the way he went around tackling that was to find everything. He actually needed to find the problems, not be reassured that it was all going to be okay, but he had to know what he was dealing with from the problem side. So it was actually about, you know, I'm looking for a complication. Is one of the lyrics, and that's what he was looking for. Because once he knew what the risks were and what they genuinely were, he was more comfortable to go in.
Oh God, I go with Mr. Grohl. I had to find out everything about what was going on, and that I think is particular to my brain, my neural type. For me, it was not particular to people around me, and especially my partner, because I was very blunt. I was very black and white with the different flowcharts that then could happen. And as we progressed, you know, flowcharts would disappear and new flowcharts would come in, new routes of what might happen. So my investigatory stuff was how I kept my anxiety levels low. But, you know, I mean, and again, I keep saying trigger warnings here because it is difficult. Cancer has taken a lot of my family. My dear, awesome mother died of pancreatic cancer during the pandemic, and they were in North Wales, which made it very difficult. And a lot of other relatives have got cancer as well. So it's something I've not liked for a long time. And any person that hears that word, it could be, is devastating. And I'm going to put this in here as well. Where we are at the moment is I'm going to be scanned every month, and that's it. That it's small. It's 3 centimeters by 2.8 by 2.7, I think. Cuthbert is small. It's a stage 1. Believe it hasn't spread. They're going to scan me the minute they see it grow. I think they're going to go in and get it out, and it's as simple as that. And then they'll know what it is. So I don't know if you know, there's a quantum physics thing which I love called Schrodinger's cat, which is where a cat in the box, poison. The cat can exist in 2 quantum states. You don't know until you lift up the lid and observe. I call this Schrodinger's Cuthbert because we don't know what Cuthbert is until we see it. So I kind of call it. It's gone from Cuthbert now to Schrodinger's Cuthbert. But how I dealt with it, which is very difficult from, I will say, my neurotypical partner, was I researched everything.
Yeah.
I started planning for those eventualities. So this is complex. Forgive me here. So first of all, I researched the medical basis. I researched the possible outcomes. I watched a guy having a partial kidney. You can get this on the internet. I loved it. I watched a guy having a partial kidney removal, a guy in America. It's on YouTube. And then a guy having a full kidney removal. I've researched all the classifications, the T numbers, the M, the A's, etc., for what they call different kind of growths and so on within your body, and I found those fascinating. And then, and I know it's just my particular neural type. I then started thinking, well, okay, and this is before I knew where we are now. I thought, okay, I really better. This could be bad. This could be really bad. So I really want to think about my funeral. I want to think about my funeral costs. I want to think about my funeral service. I want to think about what songs I want played. I want to think about who will get what from the house. And I went down all those routes. And at one moment in time, didn't think of the consequences of my thought processes. And, you know, my partner would go, what have you done today? And I went, I've started planning this. Imagine that. Imagine you saying it to your dear loved ones. And I just didn't think. And of course, it made for an extremely complex moment in time because nobody wants to think through that.
It's that difficulty, isn't it? It's the difficulty of, you know, that the sort of different neurotypes existing in harmony. There's your needs, your neurodivergent needs, and your particular needs. And I think you can even take this away from neurotypes altogether. Different people have different ways of processing. Mm-hmm. And I would be very similar to you. I'd need to know what I'm dealing with, and I'd need to go through a process of understanding, of sorting it out, and knowing what I'm up against so that I can prepare for it mentally. For my wife, I think she'd be the total opposite to that. She would be, almost bury the head in the sand is the wrong way to put it, but it's that kind of thing. The less I think about it, the less I'm going to worry about it. And so that's what I'm going to do. and it's that thing. And different people had different approaches, and it comes back to I've spoken before about love languages, and you can, two people can be desperately in love but not feel it from the other person because we communicate in our own love language without understanding theirs. So, and it comes back to the same sort of thing: is my needs for me to cope with the situation are different from my wife's. What you need is different from your partner's. And therefore there's going to be that conflict, but it's knowing how to manage that within the relationship so that we're looking after the other person and their needs, but also addressing our own. That's where it gets really complex, isn't it?
It kind of became my, I have my monotropic focus of interest. Yeah. So I had this, I've gone from a coffee where for a period of time I can do nothing but think about coffees and watch videos and weigh the scales and order beans and order bits for my coffee machines and so on. And then it was whiskeys and bourbons. So for this moment in time, my focus of attention became for several weeks, let's look at what cancer is. And I was totally watching videos, as I said, focusing upon it. And then having to, in reality, do that bit where, we had a conversation, my partner and I, and it was almost, if I ask you what you've done today, lie. Literally, it's kind of like, don't tell me what you've done today, because I actually don't want to know. And I'd said to her, I said, look, this has now become my focus of interest. So whereas it might be coffees last month, or it obviously became the Apollo Saturn V. I've been watching people putting that together and so on and so forth. And then I moved from that literally onto let's look at Cuthbert. And so, for me, it was like, I need to understand more. I need to research more. I need to know the flowcharts I'm on. I need to know, my A, B, C, D, E, F, G of the progression routes. And that makes me feel so much calmer. But I think the bluntness, the clear cutness of what I was doing, certainly for the majority of individuals around me wasn't how they were looking at it. Do you know what I mean? It was almost as if it was, they were like, we don't want to process that. We don't want to talk about it. Can we just literally go from
Well, because I think, so from a lot of perspective, there's a lot of people rely on hope. I'm the same. I need to look for the positive. So sometimes being challenged with statistics and facts gets in the way of that hope, which we hang on to. And that's obviously detrimental from a mental health perspective. People need to cling to that. That's a certain type of person that needs to have that, whereas other people are more benefiting knowing the ins and outs, like yourself, the mechanics of it, if you like, the blueprint of what you're dealing with. It's fascinating just the different types of people and the way that we deal with things.
I think it was,
but then, like you say, it's that relational side. How do we present that to somebody else without them being brought down by it?
For me, it became another hyper-focus, another hyper-interest in my gorgeous, little autistic world. So I was going to bed watching videos about cancer and then sleeping. And I'm not being as blasé as it sounds. There were days, obviously, when I didn't know the flow chart, that I was just frozen in time because I didn't know the flow chart. So when I think they did one where I was going in for an abdomen scan. And then I literally got a letter the next day and it said thorax scan. So I just went and investigated thorax scans. And I thought, why are they scanning the rest of my body? It's in my kidney. And then, as they say, the penny dropped that they're scanning the rest of my body. If there's any indications of anything there. Now, that was a really bad weekend. That was a very bad kind of like, oh, you're only doing this because you think it might spread. And that gave me a whole new set of flowcharts that I hadn't to that point anticipated. And that really threw me. What I wanted and couldn't get was somebody to show me all the possible flowcharts themselves, a medical practitioner to do that, and they're just not there. I've had an amazing group of people around me, but so obviously there were moments in time where I was really upset and really distressed also. But being honest, those moments were when I didn't know my flowchart, when I didn't know what was going on. When, as I say, when that thorax scan came in, I was like, whoa, I haven't prepared for this. I'm not prepared for this at all, and that completely threw me. Because it was a flowchart I hadn't put into my box, and it was completely, a change of routine, a change of circumstances. I wasn't expecting it, and it completely floored me for several days. So I need that predictability, that research, that hyper-focus bit, and that's what eventually makes me feel better, no matter how traumatic it is. As I say, but where I am now, it's an outcome I was expecting to come to, or one of the ones I hope to come to. You obviously hope it's nothing, it's benign, you're okay. The statistics are, I think, 25% okay, 75% not. But statistic-wise, really early, and you go on, and it's really, a good scenario. I don't like the idea of staying in hospital overnight. If they have to take it out, I'm not very good at hospitals overnight. During the day, I love them. But now I know what my flowchart is, I'm happy. I have to prepare for if something else comes along. And I'll have to, as the saying goes, cross that bridge when I come to it. But for me, that security of knowing my flowcharts, of knowing what's happening next, is really important to me. But to those around me, you know, the investigatory process I've done, the information I've got, you know, I would love to have sat down with my partner and going, hey, do you want to see a video of a guy on his kidney taken out? And she would go, no, because she's hurting. Well,
Yeah.
I actually would have, you know, if, hey, what can we do this Saturday evening? Pizza, chips, and watch a video. Oh, can we watch this one? I actually would love to have done that. And then to talk to people about it and talk about what I've learned and so on. But it's not really appropriate, is it? For some families on a Saturday night to have pizza and chips.
Yeah.
I would gladly have done that. I'd love
It's a strange alternative to Saturday night takeaway, I've got to say. It's,
I feel so happy and so calm. That would have made me feel great. I can share, because at the moment I'm at this position in time where I haven't been able to share my knowledge of what I know, you know, the intricate bits with anybody, because, you know, because it hurts people. But I'm safe in that black and white to a certain degree. But I know that then, you know, what I've researched, what I've worked out, and I do appreciate some of you out there might be finding this difficult as well. I really apologize. But for me, that sorting things out is safety, is security, is predictability. But one of the things I found really hard from across the Neurodivide bit is that, you know, I would love to have sat down with my awesome neurotypical partner and gone, this is what's going on. This is a great video. That's a great video. Here's a guy talking about, here's what it looks like when they go in and do this, that, and the other. And for her, it was like, that's never going to happen, because it's traumatizing, it's fear-inducing. The bigger picture for her is extremely scary. It is for me too. It was. I think, you know, we're virtually okay now. But do you know what I mean? And it's just, it's interesting, because I gladly, honestly would have sat down for movie night and watched a video of a guy having his kidney taken out, as I said, and then loved to have spoke about it and talked about it in relation to where I was at that moment in time. And that, I think, is very particular to my neurotype. And that's how I prefer to deal with it, really.
Yeah.
But others don't.
That's it. Man, thank you for sharing that. I mean, obviously, it's a really personal journey that you're going through. And I think it's something that we're going to, as these episodes go on, we're probably going to have, you know, come back to Cuthbert and find out more about him and what's going on. And, you know, it's a way that we can, you know, share that and also make sure that we're supporting you as much as we can as well, brother. Moving on from that, I obviously, you know, Tigger and I, mates, and we connect on Facebook a lot. And something that came up recently was that you had quite a challenging time with being essentially rejected and what they did to you. I was hoping, if it's okay with you, we could sort of look at that and what you went through, because I thought it was exactly what we're talking about here.
I think any individual in any area who feels that their voice isn't heard, for whatever reasons, for me, I'd definitely go for neurotype. There are lots of individuals out there. I spoke a lot about this with my partner. Not only is she an awesome woman, but she's also from up north. So she has an awesome accent as well. And we were talking about how some people completely just box you straight away in a negative viewpoint and kind of dismiss you for part of your identity. And I think I'd been dismissed partially, it felt, for my neural identity as a neurodivergent, as an autistic individual. And we had conversations about how she felt as a woman, and also a woman who's from, you know, Huddersfield Way, with a lovely home Firth accent and stuff. And it was about how some people just box you and then ignore maybe who you are, what you're going to say, and the damage that does is incredible. And I think what happened recently was, for the first time, I think maybe, I felt that there were issues with me being an autistic individual, which meant that to a certain degree, what I was putting across wasn't heard maybe as strongly as it would have been from a neurotypical individual. That's how it came across to me. And I think that's the first time I have ever felt that. And I spoke to another friend who's awesomely neurodivergent, and we were talking about it, and he went, yeah, when you get that, it really does devastatingly hurt, because that marginalization, that, you know, that lack of understanding of who you are as an entity, as a neurotype, as a, you know, a person, and so on, is really difficult. And I think the one thing I'm you know, I mean, I do hope it's changing. I do feel it's changing. The one thing I know more and more is how the voices, certainly since the pandemic, I think because of Zoom and Teams and so on and so forth, is the voices of people with lived experience, be they awesome neurodivergent individuals or their family members, all those gorgeous advocates out there, have changed really the perception. There's that saying, nothing about us without us, which I really, really, really love. And it's, you know, we can work in partnership, we can travel forwards as individuals, but you've got to involve us. And that's, you know, neurodivergent individuals and their families, parents, carers, people would.
You know what? I literally this morning, in fact, half an hour before we started this, we were finishing up the meeting. I was part of a steering group for local authority, which was focused around EHCPs, and it really focused on what became really apparent, I guess, is that there's this divide, particularly between schools and parents and carers. And it becomes a very much us and them approach. And that is that thing of parents and carers are so often, and again, I hope it's changing. I see some change, but it really depends on the individual you're dealing with at any one time. You know, you've got some great Senkos out there, you've got some awful Senkos out there, and everything in between. And it's that thing of, you feel that sense of parent blame, which is something I'm a big sort of, I want people to be more aware of that side of things, because people go through it and it's so traumatizing. But the whole element of that us and them, because we should be working together. And so the schools and the councils and the authorities need to be giving weight to the input of parents and carers. And one of the points that one lady made there, which I was so glad to hear somebody else put forward, which was the individuals themselves, even if it's an HCP and you're dealing with a child, obviously, having them in for part of that process so that you're getting their feedback is just so essential. And yet it's not generally a part of things. You know, it's unusual that they're brought in because they're just a child.
This is another one. We have to do, I think, another episode about this one. But to me, it all boils down to that regurgitation of the medical model of what it means to be neurodivergent, you know, autistic spectrum disorder, and you're diagnosed and all that stuff. And then the training that carries on from that. I put a note out on one of my Facebook pages, and it's about the need for more training. And somebody put on there, I hope that people will get more training than the 3 hours I got during the whole of my teacher training qualification.
Well, I don't know if you saw it. I spoke to Hannah on a recent episode, who is an autistic teacher. She was a teacher. She's now more into advocacy, but she went through, she actually did the advanced part of the SEND element to teacher training, which was double the length of time that the standard is, because it was 2 days, not one. And I think that says it all. In a 3-year course, 1 day is your standard SEND training. And yet 1 in 7 students will have some form of neurodiversity.
And I think you've got nothing about us without us. It's extremely important to me. And I also think that, you know, one of the other things that we really are pushing for as a community is, you know, please, you know, who monitors the training that teachers get? Who monitors the training that workplaces get, that Senkos get? I mean, we've been here before, you know, and we could do another one about this, but, you know, I get, and you get great autistic champions, great Senkos, and not so great. As you say, it depends upon the person. You know, I have heard in the past 6 months, somebody say, oh, a Senko said to me, you don't really get autism in girls. Just think of the word straight away. You know, an autism champion saying, well, you know, the usual stuff. He, she, or they are fine at school, so there's no knowledge of masking. And another one, you know, oh, well, you know, he gives great eye contact. And again, another acknowledgement of masking. Oh, they've got friends. How can they be autistic if they've got friends? And it's just, and these are people who go through county-based training packages who monitors what the county delivers in any county sometimes? Who monitors the quality and the effectiveness of that delivery? And where is the content of, of people with lived experience, neurodivergent people and their families? And that is beginning to change. Paula McGowan has just done training for nurses, etc. And a great part of that is it has to have input from neurodivergent individuals and their families. And that's so important, because that will manifestly, I think, create a huge change in society, because an awful lot of the training is horrendously out of date, and people honestly don't know that and don't.
Well, actually, last year I did an autism course, and it was actually behaviours that it was an understanding autism course. I didn't complete it because I was getting so frustrated by it. I just couldn't do it anymore. But I've got the books and I've read it. But everything came back to these hugely outdated models of what autism is, and there was some acknowledgement in there that things have moved on now and we understand this better. But by and large, it was referring to people having autism. It was referring to, the sort of the original explorations and understandings of autism, exactly like you're saying. Don't make eye contact, don't have social skills, don't have this, don't have that. I mean, apart from anything, it was just hugely inaccurate of 99% of the autistic people I know. And I know quite a few now through all this. I've got to meet some amazing autistic individuals like yourself. And, for somebody who came into our conversation, I don't think you'd know you were autistic if it wasn't that you were so open about the fact that you talk about the challenges that you have, because you are communicative. You do make eye contact. You do those.
The eye contact for me as an individual varies upon my level of anxiety at any given moment in time. Yeah. I'm a great masker. I know that much. I look up Kieran Rose for that stuff. And, it's just that words do matter. Words do matter. We're all on a journey. And this is, I think, relevant in recent struggles for so many individuals. We're all on a journey. And I try so hard to respect that journey. So people that, whatever age they are, maybe on a particular aspect of growth around what it means to be autistic and neurodivergent, because of the information I've got. If you have a parent and the only training they get about what it means to be autistic is negative and medical model based, that's the knowledge they take with them. That's the knowledge they pass on to their children. And this is why we've got to change the terminology. This is why we have to change, the training that's out there. I mean, the other thing which I find fascinating, the two manuals that are out there, the DSM, a review comes out this week, and the ICD. Now, the ICD 10, I think 11 is coming out. It is an international classification of diseases. Listen to that in itself. The International Classification of Diseases is another book where you find, autism, tick, 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 tick. It's all laden with such out-of-date negativity.
Well, we've got this thing with language, haven't we? Because even now we switch into the terminology of ASC, so autism spectrum condition, because disorder gives the wrong thing. But even then, it's like, why can't we just call it autism? Why does it have to have anything else to it? Why can't somebody just be autistic? Because we add these adjectives to the end of it, these describing words. It's a condition, it's a disorder, it's a disease. It gets immediately, in anybody's mind, subconsciously, it places as negative. It's something that is wrong, not something that just is different.
There's a revision of the DSM coming out, I think, this week, and DSM TR it's called. And I watched a video about one of the editors, and about 6 minutes into the video, he talks about the new classification for autism. And in it, he says we've had to, again, this is another video we can do. It's just pointing directors so people can look at it. And it says in it, we've had to re-look at some classification areas around autism. And then he goes on to say, basically, because too many people are being diagnosed. And you sit there and you go, what? And you sit there and you think, too many people are being diagnosed. So therefore, we must be doing something wrong as a classification body. Let's make it harder. It's what it sounds like, yeah? And you think, what? So there's some real interesting debates out there at the moment. Autism spectrum disorder, autism spectrum condition, autism as a word itself, autistic, whether I'm a person with autism or I'm an autistic person. The debates are huge. I so go for I am an autistic individual. It's me, 1,083%.
But that for me is one that, I've discussed this on my channel previously, and I will always default to referring to someone as being autistic, simply because I know that's the majority of autistic people I know prefer to be that. But I have met those who'd like to say, I have autism. And that's that's one thing. It's just a case of, I will try to talk to somebody first and say, how do you prefer it to be referred to? Because that's, there's an individuality to that. And I understand that that's how they want to process it. That's how they want to wear the badge in whatever way they want to wear it.
And I will always respect a person's path upon the journey. I don't want that to sound too rude, I guess, but if somebody chooses that puzzle pieces are okay for them, or somebody chooses to be a person with autism, then I think to myself, look, can I share this with you? Can we have a natter? But I still respect where you are, because you're on that. And it may be that in several years' time you change, or next month you change, or you read some stuff and you change, or you don't. I don't want to ostracize anybody in this community that we're involved in, because we're fighting and struggling for so much. Parents, carers, and neurodivergent individuals, we're having to fight for everything. Education, environments, every day of our lives. But still, I do believe, images count for people's thinking processes, and also words definitely count. The idea of being able to change those are very small steps to me into changing the bigger picture as well.
Thanks so much for joining us, guys. And thank you, Tigger, for being, as always, so open. I always get so much out of these chats that we have. It's
One day soon, everybody out there that watches us, we will film one of these where we're both in the same room.
In the room. I'll drag him into my shed. We can. Sorry, studio. And we'll work it out. We're going to do it now that we're sort of getting to a point where we can. That's got to happen sooner than later. We want to thank you guys for joining us. We love that. We love that you take part of this, and we want you to be a part of this. One of the things that Tigger and I both love is when you guys ask questions and we can discuss them in the show. So if you've got anything you want to ask, if you've got any comments on what we discussed, any questions on what we discussed, just go into the comments and write them down, and we will make sure we give you, if you choose not to be mentioned, just chuck a note in there. Please keep me anonymous. But otherwise, we'll give you a shout out on the channel, and we'll talk about your question between us, I guess. Yeah. Please do go hit like, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and you'll always know when there's new content coming up on the channel. Thank you, Tigger. Again, just loved it.
Thank you, Azeba, and thank you everybody else as well. Thank you so much. Get those questions in. They are lush.
We'll see you guys again on the next episode. There'll be lots of other stuff going on in between on the channel, so keep your eye open. In the meantime, you guys, please do stay safe.